Let's begin 3,000 kilometres southeast of here in Paris to Beirut, where the Israeli military has struck the Lebanese capital for the first time in months, killing 8 people, injuring at least 30 more. Targeted strike, according to IDF officials, in the southern suburbs of Beirut during rush hour, stronghold of Hezbollah. News stations in Lebanon the last few hours broadcasting footage of at least 2 buildings completely flattened. Sources close to the militant group reporting an elite operations commander, Ibrahim Akil, is the target of the attack and was killed. Well, earlier today, Hezbollah had pounded northern Israel with more than 140 rocket attacks, saying it targeted several Israeli military sites. Another moment that brings the risk of wider conflict into focus. Let's bring in our correspondent in Beirut, James Andre. James, great to have you on the programme. And a week that's seen this new method of technological warfare, pagers, then walkie-talkies exploding across Lebanon. Bring us up to date with developments today.
Yes, indeed, today, well, there's this strike that has taken place in the southern suburbs of Beirut. According to witnesses, it was a drone strike, 4 missiles that were launched on this very busy neighborhood, which is a Hezbollah stronghold. And there, 4 buildings targeted, one of them at least flattened, and indeed, well, casualties, 8 at this stage, 59 wounded. But, you know, those figures are set to mount. When you see the footage of the wreckage inside that heavily populated area, indeed, you can imagine that it is major damage. Of course, this strike arrives amid a maximum tension period here in Lebanon, including on the southern border, where there's been exchange of fire since Israel, it was allegedly be Israel that detonated pagers that were being carried by Hezbollah operatives across the country. That was Tuesday. Then on the Wednesday, it was handheld radio systems that were targeted and exploded as well. The death toll is now officially at 37, according to the Lebanese Health Ministry, with over 3,000 wounded people, and those are terrible wounds. We went to hospitals today with the team. We're talking people who were holding these pages in front of their faces, lost 1 or 2 hands and 1 or 2 eyes. According to our health ministry, 300 people lost their 2 eyes in this attack, 500 lost at least 1 eye, and hundreds of people were amputated.
OK, while we're talking, James, there's been an update from news agencies, APTN news agency, AP as well, Israeli military announcing that the strike in the neighbourhood of Beirut, quote, killed Ibrahim Akil, a senior Hezbollah military official. No immediate confirmation of his death from Hezbollah. Sources close to the group saying that indeed this elite commander was killed. Tell me about what's known of this commander.
Well, he is a very high-profile Hezbollah fighter indeed. Ibrahim Akil has been operating since the 80s. He is thought to have replaced in the organization Fouad Shukra, who was killed in a similar strike. That was a few months ago during this very same war. Now, Ibrahim Akil had just come out of the hospital because he'd been wounded by his own pager exploding. That was on Tuesday, and he'd just come out of the hospital and he was targeted by this strike. Now, we have heard that there was a high-profile meeting taking place in the building that was hit with potential other operatives as well as Palestinian leaders. Now, Ibrahim Akil is a very important figure within Hezbollah. He was, according to the United States authorities, behind the terrorist attack against the US Beirut embassy back in April 1983 that killed 63 people. That same year, in October, he was behind an attack that took place against US Marines and killed 241 people. So he is indeed very high profile. He's broadly seen here as the number 2 in the organization at this stage, and or at least here in Lebanon, number 2 or 3, depending on what you're looking at. He was ahead of all the military operations. The US had a $7 million bounty on his head.
Wow, OK, so that news coming in, very interesting background, James. The news being confirmed by the Israeli military as we speak. Also, another thing, James, just tell us about the atmosphere. In a week where we're seeing, you talked about communications devices exploding, an apparent new front in technological warfare, just talking to people, their thoughts, their fears about their own lives and where this could go.
Well, clearly there's tension in Beirut. I mean, today, for example, was Friday. Usually we went to streets which usually would be busy, would be, packed, jammed with people and cars. Well, that was not the case today. So very clearly there is a mood of weariness here in the city. People telling us that, for example, they've been very shook by the pager attack. Indeed, what we had here just last Tuesday was multiple explosions across the city, thousands of them at the same exact moment, with people, as I say, being rushed to hospitals. The hospitals overwhelmed, people with two eyes damaged, with hands torn off. So this has had a major psychological impact here in Lebanon. And then what's also been of note is that people have been watching Hassan Nasrallah, who gave a speech yesterday here in the afternoon as Israeli jets were flying over, making noise to, basically disconcert people. And also demonstrating that they can fly over Lebanon unhindered. But basically, Hassan Nasrallah saying that he would strike back, but he wouldn't say where or when or how. But indeed, this is very much his, I'd say, usual rhetoric when it comes to attacks by Israel. Just this attack has been felt here as a major blow, something different to what had happened till then. Now, since then, of course, there's been 140 missiles that have been fired by Hezbollah into Israel, but still people here feel that the organization is, in a sense, pretty powerless to respond to this attack by Israel. But still, there is very much this feeling that there is a risk that war may escalate. People are worried. People tell us they're worried. People tell us they don't want to take a lift, for example, with people they believe could be part of Hezbollah because they're afraid their phone might explode. So, yes, tension in the city. People being very weary of these explosions, which appeared to just arrive from nowhere. And people telling me, there was a before and after. They said, this is the first attack of its type when it comes to, I was talking about the pages, the first attack of this type in history. So, people very shocked and very surprised at what happened, and also very weary of what's up and coming.
James, stay with us. While we're talking, there's more breaking news. I want to show you these pictures. These are live in south of Beirut. Just while James was talking, we can see them again here. This is a cordoned off area where you can see some of the world's press there. This is where, close to the site of the explosions, as we speak. Another update from Israeli military spokesperson, quote, saying around 10 senior Hezbollah commanders have been killed, along with Akil. So this coming in as we speak on air. James, stay with us. I want to go 200 or so kilometres south of where you are. Let's bring in Ori Goldberg, a political commentator, seasoned analyst, who's with us this evening from Tel Aviv. Pleasure to have you on the programme, Ori. First of all, just give me your reaction, your thoughts on this news coming in. The Hezbollah commander, Israeli military saying killed, along with 10 senior Hezbollah officials.
I think Israel is trying to do everything it can to persuade Hassan Nasrallah to start an all-out war. Israel officially is presenting it as an attempt to escalate in order to de-escalate. But my assessment is that this is an attempt to get Hezbollah to fire the opening salvo that would allow Israel to perhaps initiate a ground invasion of Lebanon.
If that happens, Ori, what do you see as the goal down the line for Israel from this point, and the week that we've had, and how that links, perhaps, whether it links directly to the pages, communication systems being destroyed as well?
I don't think there is a plan. I don't think Israel has a game plan when it comes to Lebanon. I think this is, to use an American expression, a Hail Mary pass. This is Israel in a state of desperation. Israel has failed abysmally in Gaza. Its declared war goals have not been met. There's no hostage deal. Hamas has not been eliminated. So Israel is turning to Lebanon in a very desperate attempt to try and prove its mettle. I don't think Israel has any kind of strategic vision. I think the detonation of the pagers was an attack that was carried out mostly because the operation had apparently been years in the planning and making. There was an expiration date on how and when these pagers could be exploded, which is why this happened now. This is not unprecedented. In the past, such operations have started Gaza wars and other local conflicts. I think Israel, again, excels at tactics, but has absolutely no strategic vision at the moment, no end game, and not even a midterm plan. Israel is using everything it has to try and reach some sort of conclusive move. In this case, most likely a war, perhaps an attempt at a deal, but Israel has no idea for a deal, no plan for a deal, no way of making Hezbollah believe it, and no stated intentions.
So you're saying basically we are, in your words, without a plan, as it seems from your sources on the Israeli side, sort of teetering towards the brink here. And we keep saying this, but how many times can you teeter towards the brink without falling off the cliff edge and then having this wider conflict? What is it that you see, Ori, as a benefit to Israel from, let's say, Hamas responding? And by responding, you mean what? Striking civilian centres, not striking the northern military bases of Israel?
The only benefit is that this distracts attention from Gaza and from Israel's failure against Hamas. And it perhaps, again, this is a last-minute, all-or-nothing attempt to try and rally Israelis around the flag. Now, there's support in Israel for a war because all we've been hearing for a year is that the only way to get the 100,000 Israeli citizens who were evacuated from Israel's north back home is to have a war with Hezbollah. But it is absolutely unclear, and I think it's intentionally unclear, what this war plans to achieve, what kind of challenge this would place on the Israeli civil society, on the Israeli heartland. Israelis are full of foreboding. They know something horrible is going to happen, but they also have a very clear sense that there is no other option but to do this. There's no benefit. It is just presented to us as the only way. You might ask, the only way where? Nobody knows.
Well, Ori, I mean, you lead with the question. I mean, one thing that strikes me is that if the Israeli military are pushed, and that, according to sources to France 24, one of the options being considered is whether or not to launch an incursion to the south of Lebanon to clear the way to allow people to start to return to northern Israel. Now, this has been done before, as you well know, back in 80s, 82 up until 2000, and the then Prime Minister Ehud Barak pulling people away from that and Hezbollah taking up the vacuum. Now, do you see, you talk about a lack of plan, but is in the immediacy, do you think that is still on the table, an incursion into southern Lebanon?
It's always on the table, and it's being talked about by politicians spanning the entire Zionist political spectrum from the left to the right. The fact that it's on the table is irrelevant. This is Israel's comfort zone. We've already done this, and of course, we've already failed spectacularly, not just in 82, but in 2006 as well. Saying Israel will invade is akin to saying Israel has no idea what it's going to do. An invasion is something Israel can do in its sleep. Any kind of real attempt to change the situation, be it a massive blow to Hezbollah missile and rocket launchers or some kind of massive operation. I mean, take the detonation of the pagers. You might have understood that as a strategic move had it been followed by some kind of action, but it was not. It was simply the horrific, murderous pyrotechnics. So this is just, there's nothing there. And again, an invasion would be deadly and lethal and obviously very damaging to all parties concerned. But it is not a harbinger of any kind of strategic solution.
James, just listening to Ori. Ori, stay with us. Quite worrying when Ori's point and sources he's had conversations with suggesting that there is no real strategic plan in place. Just as we're talking as well, the Israeli military spokesperson saying, quote, Israel not seeking regional escalation. But here's the thing, James, you spent time there, back and forth to Lebanon, back and forth to Israel as well. Hezbollah is a very different group to take on than Hamas.
That's for sure. Hezbollah is, if you like, the next size up. It is arguably the most powerful pro-Iranian militia in the region. I mean, you could say army. They control the complete swathes of the country. I'm standing in Lebanon. They control the whole south. And having been there myself a couple of times, I can tell you, you have Hezbollah flags everywhere, Hezbollah men everywhere. They absolutely control that area. They're, of course, also a big political force here in Lebanon. You've got to remember that they control most of the parliament. But where I would say, I do, in my view, I believe there probably is a game plan here, or at least there is an attempt to batter I'd say, Hezbollah into submission in a sense. It appears that what the Israelis are doing, and probably it's true, I don't know if they are really looking at a ground invasion or not, we'll see that in days to come, but they're sending many very clear messages to Hezbollah. And I think the pages was a very powerful one indeed, showing that they could penetrate the communication system, that they have control over it, that indeed they could use Hezbollah's own devices against it, exploding in their pockets, which has had a major impact here, absolutely major. The next day, it was the radios. Basically, what's the next thing? This is what people are asking here. So it is Israel flexing its muscles, saying, right, do you really want to do this? Because this is what we can do. And the fact of the matter is, we've seen these flyovers. I mean, as Hassan Nasrallah was speaking just yesterday, we had fighter jets in the air here above Beirut, which is, not southern Israel. This is, much higher, basically flying unhindered over the Lebanese capital and basically making a lot of noise. So, if you like, there is this message that we can cherry pick any one of you and eliminate you. This is what happened today. I mean, we have one of the most senior Hezbollah operatives that just came out of the hospital. These people change locations regularly. These people make sure their communications are secure. These people take all possible measures in order not to be located, and see, he was located. According to the Israelis, they managed to kill him. We'll have to see what Hezbollah says. They'll probably take another 24 to 48 hours before they confirm that he has been killed, if they do. But in any case, the message is, this is everything we can do, and beware. And possibly the objective is indeed to manage to, push Hezbollah to maybe negotiate. Maybe negotiations are taking place behind closed doors at this stage, and also enabling this northern population of Israel that I did actually meet back in November when they were displaced in the first place, as on a report for France 24, who obviously would like to go home at this stage because it's been months.
James, good to talk to you. James Andre, our correspondent in Beirut. Ori Goldberg as well, Israeli author, academic and political commentator at The Nation. Pleasure to talk to you on the programme from Tel Aviv too.